Good afternoon and welcome to a very special interview show of the Prode. Today we dive into one of the most critical challenges shaping our world, Russia's ongoing war in Ukraine and its impact on regional and global security. Our focus today is on Latvia, a frontline EU and NATO member with a unique strategic perspective given its geographical proximity to Russia and a critical role in European affairs. In this conversation, we'll explore how Latvia's defense posture has evolved since Feb 2022, the concrete steps it has taken to support Ukraine politically, economically, and militarily, and how it has worked with EU partners to maintain unity in the face of aggression. We'll also examine Latvia's role in strengthening European resilience from energy security to EU's common security and defense policy, and its vision for ensuring long-term stability in Eastern Europe as the conflict enters into its next phase. Joining me today to discuss these critical issues is Dr. Zanda Lukaševica, Deputy Speaker of the Latvian Parliament. Dr. Lukaševica, thank you so much for your time. It's a real pleasure to have you here, ma'am.
It's a pleasure.
Ma'am, I would like to begin the conversation by asking that how has Latvia's strategic posture evolved since Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in Feb 2022, particularly in terms of defense readiness and regional security cooperation?
I have to say that, unfortunately, and at the same time, to no surprise to ourselves, we are not surprised by Russia's full-scale aggression against Ukraine back in 2022. So it goes for the Latvian security services, intelligence services, also for politicians and leaders, because we know Russia quite well. So we saw that it coming. Also, of course, we hope that maybe there is still a rationale in Russian Kremlin that they might stop themselves, but they did as they always do. So, and I have to say that we actually began to significantly strengthen our defense capabilities and defense forces immediately after Russia's illegal occupation of Crimea in 2014. So there were significant decisions made by NATO in 2016, and the multinational battalion, so the enhanced forward presence forces of NATO, started to work in Latvia in 2017. So, and since 2022, yes, we continued to strengthen our security, our defense capabilities even more quickly. And we see that actually, paradoxically, but because of the Russia's full-scale invasion in Ukraine, the Baltic region has become more secure right now because we increased our defense capabilities. NATO changed very significantly its defense plans. And of course, also Finland and Sweden joining NATO, that has a very big impact on increasing security in the Baltic region. So from no surprise to still doing much more and also planning to continue to strengthen our defense. So we see that a lot has been done, but nevertheless, so as warfare evolves today, we have to remain at the cutting edge of technologies and tactics. So, and technologies are playing more and more importance these days, of course.
Yeah, and what specific measures has Latvia implemented to support Ukraine politically, economically, and militarily, and how effective has those measures been in countering Russia's aggression?
So support for Ukraine from every corner of Latvian society, so would it be our citizens or NGOs or business, local governments, and of course also government and parliament, is very broad. So we continue to provide strong and determined political, military, financial, and also humanitarian assistance, both individually, so bilaterally working with Ukraine, and also within the EU. And so our people have opened their doors to Ukrainian refugees immediately. So I was at that time in 2022 working at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and I remember how many NGOs and local governments called in saying that we want to help like immediately, the same day. And that really happened and continues to happen. So officially, there are about 50,000 Ukrainians registered in Latvia who came as refugees. But in reality, I think the numbers are much higher because not all of them register as they live here with the support of relatives and friends. And we treat Ukrainians as locals according to our law. And for the first period when they arrive, provide additional support as they come from a country in a war. And of course, they don't need the first support to buy what's needed for life, and then continue to work and be part of our society. And
Yeah,
I think that is. Yeah, so that's for the societal part. But of course, also the military support we continue. So we have agreed and actually decided that we will dedicate 0.25% of our GDP annually for providing military support to Ukraine. And we also not only send some weapons, etc., but we also train quite a lot of Ukrainian soldiers here in Latvia, including our Ladži military base, together with other NATO nations. And I think it's also very important that not only bilaterally, but we see that EU and NATO has shown a really impressive result in their approach, that pressure against Russia and support to Ukraine.
yeah. In what ways has Latvia coordinated with EU institutions and member states to shape a unified diplomatic and strategic posture to the ongoing conflict? And what challenges remain in maintaining this cohesion?
Being a member of the EU and NATO, being a neighbor of the aggressor, knowing it very well. So actually, this coordination and cooperation with our partners is like everyday work. So it's like working in every format, quite often taking also a leadership role, explaining Russia's way of thinking and acting, advocating for higher support to Ukraine. But it's very hard to mention even all the formats because it's like really phone calls between prime ministers, phone calls between the foreign affairs ministers and defense ministers, different formats within the EU and NATO. And now, of course, also the coalition of willing, led by the UK and France. So it's everyday work to find the ways how to provide the maximum support and how to convince our colleagues to do more and more every day.
Yeah, now coming to the equation between Latvia and Russia. So, given Latvia's geographical proximity to Russia and its history with Russian influence, how is Latvia balancing deterrence with diplomatic engagement within the EU framework to prevent escalation in the Baltic region?
I think that at some point, Russia's aggression against Ukraine has opened our eyes to other states and leaders. And so we've been always realists. Nevertheless, previously, sometimes Latvians and Balts were called Russophobes because we said that Russia is capable of aggressive acts against its neighbors. So we know very well that what works is showing deterrence, determination, and strength from our side, because Russia needs to be deterred. So we really need to have the strongest possible measures restricting Russia's economy and deterring it from any further actions and aggression. So at this point, it means really finding new ways how to restrict Russia and convincing our colleagues that no step back should be taken. That's very, very important. Because indeed, that's the difference between the Western democracies, where we believe that if we step one step back, we create a room, a space for dialogue and compromises. Russia perceives it as weakness and immediately, instead of stepping also one step back, goes move forward. So that's why it's so important not to show any weakness, but to show that we stand strong, we support Ukraine, and we are able to defend every inch of NATO countries.
Yeah, and how does Latvia perceive the role of EU's common security and defense policy in addressing the crisis in Ukraine? And what are Latvia's priorities in strengthening EU capabilities for crisis management and conflict prevention going forward?
The EU CSDP has a crucial role for Latvia and for the EU as such. So, of course, we have also to be realistic, and we have to see that sometimes the speed of decision making could be faster. So that's something where we should find ways how to decide when it's needed really fast, but at the same time, not to lose ability to examine angles of the possible consequences of our decisions. So striking this balance between the speed and thoroughness is indeed a key priority. If you look at the practical aspects, so what is very important at the EU level is to continue to strengthen the defense industrial base, so the military industry. That's a priority for Latvia. So we need to also boost joint procurements, ensure interoperability within NATO as essential. It is very essential for us regionally. And also there are many different areas where we can and must work together. So very prominent role also should be energy security, because energy these days is actually part of the situation. Previously, Russia liked to use some weaknesses, so and we also have to see it in a way in a coordination with the defense policy.
Yeah, and with the war in Ukraine affecting energy security and supply chains across Europe, what policy steps has Latvia taken to mitigate these impacts domestically while contributing to EU-wide range resilience strategies?
Let me mention two examples. Previously, the Baltic countries used to be connected with the Russian energy grid. So there were long-standing plans to disconnect from the Russian energy grid and to synchronize with the European electricity grid. So because of the Russia's full-scale aggression against Ukraine, we managed to do it already beginning this year. So doing it like a year or even two earlier than initial plans. So that increased our energy security. The other aspect is gas supplies. So before 2022, Latvia used to buy almost 100% of our gas consumption from Russia. We stopped fully. We buy zero gas from Russia these days. So we managed to find other suppliers, mainly via LNG in the Baltic Sea. And so this approach that we do not buy from Russia has two important aspects. The one is that Russia cannot endure us, so cannot use the energy as our vulnerability. And the other aspect is giving no sense to Russia for its war machine. So that's why we also continue to talk with our colleagues in Europe that we should fully restrict any consumption of Russian gas and oil, also avoiding buying it from third countries. So we have our own also strengths. For example, we have a huge underground gas storage here in Latvia. So it allows us, for example, to buy the resources when it's has better price in the global market and to store it. So not to be also dependent on everyday supplies from outside. So and this combination of policies, when we know that we have to safeguard our energy security and we also have to restrict money flow to Russia, it's at the core of our attitudes.
Yeah, I would like to conclude the discussion by asking that what are the Latvia's key strategic priorities and recommendations for the EU and its allies to ensure long-term regional stability and security in the post-conflict landscape on Eastern Europe? And where do you see this conflict going forward? What's the way forward for Baltic nations and Europe in general, in terms of Russia's war in Ukraine?
In a short, it would be hope for the best but prepare for the worst. So I think that we are obliged to develop rapidly our defense capabilities. That's the one aspect. To continue to ensure energy security. Also, increase our ability to fight against foreign interference and foreign influence through all possible means. So if look what happened in Romania for the presidential elections. If we look what is happening in Moldova, how Russia is trying to have influence on its upcoming parliamentary elections. So we have to recognize that it's also a real threat for Europe as such, not only for those couple of countries. So it means that we have to increase our readiness to defend both our land and our democracy. So, and we are ready to fight for them. And we are also ready to continue to advocate for the maximum support to Ukraine and also to explain the way Russia is acting as we know it from our history. And that's why we know that we have to have a very strong policies, and we have to stand for what we believe is right.
Yeah, Dr. Lukashevita, thank you so much once again for sharing your insights on these critical issues. It's been an honor to hear Latvia's perspective at such a pivotal moment for Europe and the world. We deeply appreciate your time and thoughtful reflections once again. Thank you so much.
Thank you.